Listeners, this is John Cole, normally reporting from outside Westminster, but I do have the luxury of a very warm and indeed a very hot studio in here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure it's hot because we do have a right lineup of gangsters in here tonight, namely Jerry Adams. We've also got Martin McGuinness. We do have, he's back from a tour, of course. Art Guard Funkel was ill in Sydney, Australia, so Martin was flown in as a substitute and did a very good job as well of the Soldier Song, his last song he sang on the night. But anyway, we also have the Reverend William McRae, who wasn't called as a substitute because his singing is neither here nor there. Ian Paisley.
Here, hold on a second. That's a bit of an insult to Willie. Willie McRae has been singing a lot longer than that gobshite's been bombing. So I want to know why you said that.
Right, Dr. Paisley, I'm just running through the list of guests that we have here tonight. Also, we have Ronnie Flanagan, the Chief Constable of the RNUC. This is the first head-to-head, and we don't mean that literally, of course, but we do have Ronnie Flanagan and, of course, Jerry Adams, as I've already mentioned. We also have Sir Patrick Mayhew, the ex-Secretary of State, along with Mo Mullum, who's here tonight. They did come hand in hand, literally. But anyway, I want to ask you, Dr. Paisley, about the peace process, the state...
Hold on a second. I want to say this here, that I am not interested in the peace process at this moment in time, because I have a message that I want to relay to the Ulster people and the Ulster Protestants, and I would like to take this opportunity to milk the airtime, if that is possible.
Dr. Paisley, really, we do have
Of the debate. I want to get this message across, and I speak to you today in the midst of the worst crisis that Ulster has ever faced. Inside Stormont Castle, this treacherous government is negotiating away the Union. As the song says, 12 men went to Mo and she gave them a united Roman Catholic Ireland. At this time we should reflect on what makes good Ulster Protestant Unionists. A Roman Catholic once asked me, Dr. Paisley, what makes you a Unionist? And I replied, my father was a Protestant Unionist, and his father before him was a Protestant Unionist. And what says he? Would you be if your father had been an arsehole, and your father before him had been an arsehole? A Fenian, I say it. I want to tell you this here, that I will resist with all my might any attempt to betray our Protestant heritage. Don't let John Hume soft soap you. Not the Fenians would be that familiar with soap. No, John Hume is Ulster's greatest enemy. They say he is a self-made man, and he worships his creator. Now, wee Willie McRae once asked me, what's the difference between a misfortune and a calamity? I told him, Willie, it would be a misfortune if John Hume fell into the foil, and it would be a calamity if somebody pulled the bastard back out again. Mr. Hume says we'd all be better off in his agreed Ireland. Sure, doesn't Ulster already lead the world in several areas? I mean, in Ballymena, we were the first to have safe sex. Good, strong sex that keeps the rats out of the spuds. And aren't we famous for our fashion? Some of our biggest fish, you'll see, have been caught in the River Ban. So to whom, or Hume, it may concern, yous Fenians think you're so clever, the Union you hope to sever, but you'll never beat Protestant endeavour. Surrender to Dublin. Feck off. Never.
Right, well, Dr. Paisley, I appreciate now that you've got your say and you're finished.
No, I am not finished at all, because later on in the programme I will be wanting to say more on this.
Jerry Adams, let's bring Jerry Adams in here. Mr. Adams, what have you got to say on Ian Paisley's so-called political broadcast?
Well, it was a bit funny. Nothing else, no substance, no content, and just the same old rhetoric. But I have to say that people have been asking me how the talks have been going recently. And you can see the first thing we've had to do was get new wardrobes, Martin McGuinness especially. He looked like he'd been dragged behind a Land Rover. And I said, Martin, those anoraks of yours are about as fashionable as the demands for the 32-county Socialist Republic. So we decided to go on CNA, and we got him a nice selection of suits and overcoats. The store was so impressed that they named a new range after him, Man and IRA. And Martin has promised that they won't get bombed again, as long as he gets good discount. The coat he got isn't C&A. It's Versace. It's bulletproof. Well, the talks themselves now, I must say things are pretty slow. When we first started going up to Stormont, we enjoyed the crack. The first day I arrived there, I asked the security guard who was a statue outside, who was it off? And he said it was off Carson. And Martin asked why Carson, and I said, well, it must have been the way he told him. I think that when we take power, we'll put up a statue of Jimmy Cricket just beside Carson. Now, when we got inside the talks, Mo Mullum tried to offer us a cup of tea and an Ulster fry. No way, I said. Sinn Féin will only accept an occupied six-county fry with cross-border real executive powers. Then after the morning session, she offered us biscuits, Jaffa cakes, would you believe? And there's no way that Sinn Féin or any member of my party will take an orange biscuit. And then, now every day we're sitting opposite the official Unionist Party, and they're sitting there like your wife at the breakfast table when you wake up with a hangover, all picture, no sound. And I tried to engage the other day with Ken McGuinness, and he said to me, he doesn't talk with murdering fuckers. I said, nor do I. I usually fax him my instructions. But he was very upset with that, and he had a word in my ear, and I can't really repeat what he'll say.
Right, well, Mr. Adams, but do you ever see the day whenever you will be sitting down beside the likes of Ken McGuinness and Ian Paisley at the talks?
Well, Ian Paisley's not even in the talks. And if you're not in, you can't win. And I don't think that Ian Paisley wants a settlement in this island. And the sooner he and the chocolate eclair eating Bob McCartney get back in the talks, the better. If they don't want to come in, they're going to miss out. People have voted them in. They should be representing those people, and they refuse. And what are they afraid of?
Well, we're certainly not afraid of you, murder. And let me say this here, Mr. Adams, that the Ulster Unionist Party are treacherous towards the Protestant people. And Mr. Trimble, or David Trimble, as I like to call him, if he wants to go in and talk to Sinn Féiners and IRA men, that's entirely up to him. But we will certainly not be at that table talking to the likes of you or any of that bloody women's coalition. It's a bunch of bloody lesbians. We're not in there to talk to any parties that are associated with Sinn Féin.
Well, I don't think that the women's coalition are associated with Sinn Féin. I want to make that very clear for the record. But Sinn Féin is a party on their own. And
right, well, Jerry Adams, I don't know where you're coming from, to be honest, and I don't know what fucking point is you're trying to make here. But we want to move along here because we do have Lord Jerry Fitt. We've flown him the whole way over from London to be here. Well, Jerry Fitt, what's it like to be here?
Well, I have to say that I'm not surprised that Jerry Adams and Ian Paisley are like cat and dog, still fighting. The piece I'm sure you all remember me, of course, as you know, I haven't gone away, you know. But someone said to me recently, Jerry, things are a lot different now than they were back in the 70s when you were at their peak. So I began to think to myself, well, let's see. Well, we had negotiations, which led to a devolved assembly and cross-border bodies. And the MP for West Belfast, incidentally, was called Jerry. The British government said they would never negotiate with terrorists, and then flew Jerry Adams over for talks, which I could not understand. John Hume was delivering the same speech every week. Ian Paisley was accusing the government and the official unionists of betraying the Protestant people. Richard Nixon, he was the president, so there was a bent dick in the White House after all. People were getting murdered in the streets by sectarian gangsters. So I said back to this fella, you're right, son. Things are really different then. You could buy 10 pints of Guinness for £2. Anyway, all this reminiscing is making me a bit thirsty. I think I'll have a wee drink here. Fucking tongue thing in it.
That's not all. You better pull your zip up, you dirty git.
Right here, hold on a minute.
Oh dear, very sad. You're a nigger, son, Jerry. There's no need for that.
Right, well, hold on. I remember the day that the provost broke into my house on the Antrim Road. And I held him off with a pistol and I said, go on, punk, make my day. They didn't call me Dirty Jerry for nothing, you know. But back in the 70s, the police gave me a P38. Then in the election in 83, the people of West Belfast gave me a P45. But, well, I'm glad to see that John Hume's doing very well for the SDLP party. I'm not bitter at all. If it weren't for John Hume, we wouldn't be enjoying this peace at the minute, because I think he was one of the main negotiators. One thing that I didn't do when I was leader of the SDLP party, though, was all this coing and toeing to the Americans. It seemed that John Hume is always on his knees before Bill Clinton. Mind you, he's not the only one by all accounts. I'm just wondering, did Bill Clinton have oral sex with any women when he was over here? I remember people talking about the employment potential that his visit was bringing. And if he resigned now, it would be a great blow to those jobs prospects. Anyway, have you seen the women he was involved with? I'd rather have a blowjob from Rhonda Paisley, but mind you, if she's anything like her father, she would find me hard to swallow. But having said that, I think that the President's visit was quite amazing, and it did raise the profile in Northern Ireland.
Yes, a lot more than I can say for yourself, Lord Fit. But anyway, Ian Paisley, we want to get away from politics for one moment because I'm sure everyone's fed up listening to the old political. But what about films and your interests and whatever else? For instance, did you go and see the Titanic?
Yes, I went and seen that film Titanic with Eiley the other night. A lot of fucking Fenian propaganda, if you ask me. And of course, the Titanic was built in Harlem Wolf. And this film is a terrible slur on the good Protestant workmanship.
No wonder it went down. I bet it would have survived if at least 50% of the workforce had been Catholic.
The fuck would you know about it? I bet you would have been the first one on the lifeboats. Fuck the women and children first. That would have been your assessment.
It might have been women and children first, but it was Irish Catholics last. I would have demanded parity of esteem on the lifeboats, with guaranteed representation for all concerned groups. I can tell you now that if the Titanic were sailing today, Sinn Féin would have the following demands. The Titanic would be rerouted past all icebergs and sail directly into Irish America. We'll pick up a few tons of we'll pick up some Sinn Féin election material. Secondly, I would be the ship's captain. Some people say that if my hair was grey, I would look like Captain Birdseye.
I thought there was something fishy about you, son.
And I could guarantee all party representation at the captain's table, and if there was any pressure at the bar, I could pull a few pints. And 3, if we were sinking, the band would not play Nearer My God to Thee. It would play A Nation Once Again with Willie McRae on the accordion. 4, places on the lifeboats would be allocated in the first manner, in alphabetical order.
Aye, right, and what's the difference between the Titanic and your good friend Bill Clinton, Jerry?
I've no idea.
Only 1,500 went down on the Titanic.
Right now, Dr. Paisley, there's no need for that, for goodness sake. Jerry Fit, did you actually watch the film?
Well, I have a bad eye. How the fuck could I see it? I've only got one eye. Do you think I'm going to pay full amount into the cinema when I've only got half a sight? No. Now, if I got in half price, I would have invested all right.
Right, well, okay. Now, John Hume, you're actually here today. Mr. Hume, I want to ask you about the peace talks. Let's get back into them again. Are they moving forward or backward?
Well, I want to make it very clear in this building and in this studio here tonight that what we do have is a lot of people who don't want to put the effort in. We have Ian Paisley and we also have Robert McCartney, that they're still out of the talks. They don't want to come on board. They don't want to get a settlement. We all want a settlement for this island and for New Ireland. And I want to make it very clear that if we don't strive forward, we're going to go backward.
Well, you've been backwards all your life, Mr. Hume. And let me say this here to you, fat foiled gobshite, that we in this province don't want to see Sinn Féin and the SDLP amalgamating together to try and push out the Ulster Protestants. That's exactly what you're at. And we know what you're all at, don't we, Willie?
Well, I have to say it here whenever I lost my seat in Mid-Ulster to Mr. whatever you call him, Art Garfunkel McGuinness, that I said to the Lord that the Ulster Protestant people are going to come down to an abyss, that the time has come when the Ulster people will have to take measure of what they're going to have to do to defend the Union. And I have also said it to them.
Hold on a second, Willie. Willie, put my milk in it, son. Fuck's sake, you're ripping the arse out of it.
It's just getting excited there, but I say, and I say this without foundation, that Mr. McGuinness should not be elected as the MP for Mid-Ulster, because I was the one that done the job for all sides and all sections of the community, whether they be Catholic, nigger, Protestant, chink. I done...
All right, yes, Willie, all right.
Well, you fucking put a sock in it, or I'll put my boot in it.
Oh, will you, son? Well, let me tell you now, Mr. Adams, we've a big car park out there. If you want to go outside and have a tussle with me, you're more than welcome.
Well, I think you're after a wee bit more than a tussle. And I don't tussle with a 9mm. Don't fucking push me, all right?
Right now, gentlemen, settle yourselves down. But Martin McGuinness, we want to speak to you. You have never ever been invited onto a programme. Oddly enough, it's probably because of your good looks. But anyway, we want to ask you about this portrait.
Well, I want to make it very clear to the British government that what we want is to have full substantial talks, and if the British government don't give us the talks, then...
But we're talking about portrait, Mr. McGuinness.
But I want to tell the British government and partly a Hearn, that we want to move this process forward. And the people in this island, they desire to have peace. And I want to make it...
Now, Martin, you said you were going to come in today and give us your fucking poem. Are you going to give us it or are you not?
Right, well, no problem, John. This is a poem that I love. It's called My Love is Like an Armalite. And this is the way it goes. My love is like an Armalite, the rifle of great renown. I love to gently grease her up and then slowly strip her down. As I put my bullet in her breech, as moist as the river foil, she softly moans our day will come as I feel her strong recoil. She then ejects the cartridge case and murmurs her sweet thanks. As I say, I hope you're bulletproof, 'cause I never fire blanks.
Oh, that was absolutely marvellous. Very, very nice indeed, Martin. I didn't think you were capable of nearly bringing a tear to my eye, but anyway, every priest says that the altar boys. But anyway, Ian Pizzy, what did you make of that?
Well, I thought it was very moving, I must admit. I had to wipe a tear away from under me. I never thought Mr. McGuinness would have that sort of effect upon myself. Yes, it was very nice, I have to say.
Jerry Fit, what did you make of it?
Oh, very moving. Very moving. Fuck's sake, I was nearly under the table crying my eyes out there. But having said that, Martin does have other trades which he specialises in, isn't that right, Martin?
Well, that's quite true, but at the end of the day, what we want is for the British government to move the process forward. And if it's not moved forward, we're going to go backward. Well, actually, that was my line that I used earlier on, and I want to make it very clear. But I think you've said too much, Mr. Hume. And I don't think you're with the Sinn Féin electorate and mandate. We have a mandate to represent the Catholic people on this island, and that we will do.
Well, now you're starting to talk politics. I don't think that you should be in at the talks. You are banned at the moment. You will be back in again in March at some date. And I disagree with it. So what we do here is, we have the Ulster Democratic Party, who are going out and doing their dirty deeds. They reject it from the talks for a period of a couple of weeks. Out for a shite to shave, in other words. Same as yourselves, and then you're back in again. I don't think that is acceptable to the normal Ulster people. And let me say this here, the sooner that you are all ejected from the talks and the mainstream parties are in there, the better.
Right, well, that's for Doozy and Pizzy. But anyway, we want to move along here because we have a lot of other people in here tonight we want to interview. Mo Mullum, as Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, you recently visited the Maze prison in order to talk to loyalist prisoners. What was it like being in a room with dozens of thugs who all claim to be politically motivated?
It just sounds like the House of Commons, John. Actually, they were very, very nice indeed, and I give some of them a big hug and tell them that I felt their pain. Some of these men have never been hugged when they were children, and it's no wonder they all committed those dreadful crimes.
And turning to you, Jerry Adams, Mr. Adams, it's been suggested that some people, in fact the Republican prisoners, are having a great time in the Maze prison. I mean, wild parties, sex, drugs, etc. In fact, it is said that there's so much drugs in the Maze prison that they're going to change the name from the H blocks to the E blocks. Is that right?
Well, I can tell you now, John, that's all a pack of lies, spread by British propaganda machine. Sorry. Hello, reverse the charges from Her Majesty's prison. Oh, here, hold on a minute. Do you think I made the money? I haven't even got my royalties from off my book yet. Okay, I'll accept the call. 48p a minute? That's extortionate. And I should know all about extortion. Alright, Patrick. Yes, you've got 1-to-1 with Jerry Adams, NP. How's the prisoners of war? Sorry, could you turn that fucking rave music down the background? I can't hear you. What is it you want? 2 shovels, step ladder, rope, wire cutters, a fucking motorbike. Jesus, Patrick, don't tell me you've been watching The Great Escape again. Okay, I'll give it a go. Though I wouldn't like to be the one who's going to visit you with a motorbike up his arse. What was that? You were saying the screws thought they caught an escaper this morning? Someone going out on an ill-fitting wig with a funny pair of tits? Well, that was only Mo Mullum, don't worry about that. I don't think that was very funny, Mr. Adams. This wig cost me an absolute fortune. I got it from the same place as Elton John. Well, it looks like it was made from the same breed of gerbil. Anyway, Patrick, you were saying the screws were 2 out on the head count this evening? That's great. 2 boys should be over the border by now. What do you mean there were 2 extra? 2 released prisoners broke back in because they missed a crack? Fuck me, Patrick. I think I'll join you. Sorry, Patrick, you're fading. That's British fucking telecom for you.
Right, Mr. Adams, so what exactly are the Republican prisoners demanding?
Well, I can tell you now, John, that the prisoners have just 5 demands, and they are: they want the right to wear wonder bras. The ordinary ones are no good for escaping them. They want the right to have random searches of the screws to stop them from smuggling the prisoners' drugs out. And they want the right to have sex during visits without the screws telling their wives. And they want Jerry Kelly to present a TV show from the LVF wing. And finally, no more visits from O'Mullin.
And what if these demands are not met?
Well, if these are not met, John, then, and I can tell you now, that from next Monday, Republican prisoners will immediately begin refusing to drink their brandy after dinner. And that could have serious problems, and it could lead to an escalation in trouble in the prison.
Right, well, I'm going to ask Ian Paisley, now that we have been talking about drugs and so forth, what do you make of Jack Straw's son?
Well, let me say this here. Now that Jack Straw's son has been caught dealing with drugs, some journalists over here have been trying their luck. One of them approached Ian Jr. and asked if he could get her some dope. He said the biggest dope I know is Sammy Wilson. And I certainly wouldn't disagree with him there. Though she says, I want to buy some shit. And Ian says, well, there's a shop over there. Away you go and buy the Irish news. So a cute lad, my Ian, is well brought up, takes it after his father. The only time we get high is when we worship the Lord. That's real ecstasy for you. That's what I say. Mind you, have you ever seen these papish masses where they swing all that burning incense around? Oh, I said incense, you dirty-minded gits. I wonder what they're really burning in the big pot. Is it probably to get the altar boys in the mood for later on? That's what I want to know. And it's no wonder they carry the Pope around in that big van, the dope mobile, that's what you call it. And there's no problem with drugs in the DUP. You know what our motto is? Just say no.
Well, we say yes. And we don't agree. We don't. What I'm saying, I don't mean we say yes to drugs. When we were fed up with the unionist people saying no, not an inch, all the rest of it. Sinn Féin, our motto is we like to say yes when it suits us, and we like to say no when it doesn't. And that is a fair enough assessment.
Right, well, I don't believe that for one moment. Now, Dr. Paisley, a very, very strange thing in the news of late was about cloning. Now, it must be a very worrying aspect to think. I mean, there could be 2 or 3 Ian Paisleys in the province of Northern Ireland. One's enough.
What are you trying to say? Stick my foot in your bollock.
No, I'm not trying to be funny, Dr. Paisley. It was a joke, really. So what do you think of this cloning business, and that they can clone human beings as well as sheep?
Well, I remember when Dolly the sheep was cloned, all the Fenians down in South Armagh were very excited. One priest put an order in for a sheep with 3-foot-long back legs and an arse like an altar boy. And they're all getting very excited down there. The thing is, however, the Fenians are nearly out breeding us at the minute, while good Ulster Protestants only do it every time Rangers win. The Fenians are shagging away like Hughie Green on ecstasy. And speaking of Hughie Green, I sent Paula Yates a supportive message at Christmas. I wrote on the card, Dear Paula, I'm sorry about all the bad news you've had recently, and I mean that most sincerely. P.S. I'm enclosing a Reverend William McRae CD to remind you of Michael Hutchison. He sounds as though he's been strangled too. Anyway, I've done my bit for Ulster. Great strappy lads, Ian and Kyle, and Rhonda, a very, very fine artist. She said to me the other day she wanted to paint a nude. And I said, you're not bringing that fucker Sammy Wilson back into this house again. Well, hopefully, my Rhonda will soon settle down with a nice Christian gentleman and start procreating for Protestantism. That was a bit of a mouthful. Sorry about that. But anyway, in the meantime, we should start cloning Protestants. Now, what would be the ideal Protestant clone? What would he have? Well, he would have my sense of compromise. He would have David Trimble's composure, Bob McCartney's modesty, Jim Molyneux's sense of humour, and Willie McRae's voice. Oh, yes. What a combination.
Right, well, I don't see that actually happening, Dr. Paisley. And as for Jim Molyneux having a sense of humour, I think that's really...
Well, I know he doesn't have a fucking sense of humour. I wasn't being serious about that, Mr. Cole. I mean, no fucking wit, no humour, something.
Right, well, Dr. Paisley, we're going to have to wrap it up there because we are going into the commercial break. So we'll rejoin you in the second half. Goodbye. Listeners, thank you very much for rejoining us in the second half. Here now we are going to carry on our discussion, and of course we are asking about cloning and all that sort of thing. So we're going to pose our next question to Mr. Jerry Adams. Who would be your ideal cloning partners?
Well, I think Pamela Anderson. I would have to have half of her from the bottom down. From the waist up, I think I would have Rhonda Paisley. And that would be a very, very fine combination indeed. We have a woman with intellect with a great body. And, well, I don't know which part I'm talking about that has the great intellect, to be honest with you. I don't think there'll be much in it. But having said that there, it's a very serious thing, this cloning business. Very frightening to think that we can have 4 Ian Paisleys, 2 Bob McCartneys, 4 Jerry Fitz. It's very, very frightening indeed.
Yes, and 1 fucking Jerry Adams is even more frightening than that.
Right, now, let's get out. Now, Jerry Adams, you were saying about, we don't like talking about sexually transmitted diseases, but I mean, it does happen, and this country, of course, has went through the AIDS scare and all the rest of it. Jerry Adams, what have you got to say about it?
Well, since I started the peace process, I've been jetting all around the world, spreading the word of Sinn Féin. And you could say I had a ballot box in one hand and a Samsonite in the other. I have, however, spent most of my time in America. And I was over the moon when I got my visa, as you know. But I've got a MasterCard, an American Express. So, well, I keep, those in my inside pocket. I want everyone to keep buying the books or else. Anyway, while I was in America, I'm ashamed to say that I was unfaithful to the other half. I was at $500 a plate Bobby Sands Memorial Dinner in Boston. And you could say I dined for Ireland. Well, this woman starts chatting me up. And eventually... she suggested that we move the process forward by going back to her room for all-party talks. Now, the next day I felt this terrible itch around my buttock. On closer inspection, I found that my pubic hair was as occupied as the 6 counties. I thought, Jesus Christ, Teresa's going to kill me. If I go back there and give her the crabs, so I'll be in trouble. So I tried Dettol, Domestos, even toilet duck. And they haven't gone away, you know. The thing is, I haven't been near Teresa since. She's a bit suspicious. But I've told her that I have taken a vow of celibacy until we have an agreement on Stormont. She said that gives a new meaning to our day will come. So I've decommissioned the trouser snake until I find a cure.
Right, well, I see, Mr. Adams, but I reckon there is good stuff out. Ian Pacey, could you recommend a cure for it?
Yes, I think you could put some acid. Right, that would cure it all right. That would cure the breeding as well, and everything else that goes along with it.
Right, well, that's fair. Does Jerry fit? Did you ever encounter any?
No, not at all. I never had the pleasure of getting diseases. I mean, what I'd give to have any of those diseases would have been a fortune. But having said that there, I have to say that Mr. Adams really shouldn't be unfaithful. I mean, if you'd be unfaithful to your partner, you would be unfaithful to the talks process. You'd be unfaithful to Protestants and what they stand for. And I mean, we all know we all want an agreement. And the only way to come forward with an agreement is through honesty. And Mr. Adams does not have honesty.
Yes, he doesn't. I agree with that. At the end of the day, we need loyal people at the talks, people who is going to tell the truth, people who is not going to deceive. We all know what Sinn Féin and IRA want the United Ireland, and they're certainly not going to get it.
Right, okay, Dr. Pacey, you keep going back to the same old tune again. But anyway, Jerry Fitt, I want to ask you about the good old days and all the rest of it, how things have changed. What do you say?
Well, I have to say that I used to be a lord. Well, I still am a lord. I should say Jerry Fitt to my friends, and I haven't gone away, you know, either.
You keep coming back to annoy me like herpes.
Herpes? I thought you had all your own hair.
So you're deaf as well as blind. That must be all that self-abuse, Jerry.
Right, now, will you two stop flipping, bickering and arguing and whatever else? Martin McGuinness, that poem you done earlier on was absolutely superb. Is there any chance of maybe hearing another one?
Well, I want to tell you now that at the end of the day, it's up to the British government to make decisions. And if they're prepared to make some decisions, I'm prepared to do poetry. And I'll tell you this one here. In 72, we had some crack. We blew this town to hell. From the Diamond to the Guildhall, nearly all the buildings fell. Now, everywhere I turned today, the arcades seemed to swell. Whatever happened to the town that I had bombed so well?
Right, well, that wasn't really as fucking marvellous as the last one, was it?
Well, it's just the way I put them across. But at the end of the day, what we want is for the British government to move the process forward. And when we want an agreed Ireland, and the people desire peace, and they should have peace.
All right, Martin. You made your case plain and clear. And I have to say that poem is shite. And it wasn't as good as the last one.
It was an absolute lot of bollocks, Martin, I have to say myself.
Look, we'll just fucking leave him alone. Hold on, I got a slap in his shit here. Is that whiskey?
Yes, of course it is. Straight out of my python.
Here, leave me a drop of that there. I won't fuck herself. Get a drop of that there.
Now, hold on a second, Mr. Adams. Give him a drop of that.
Look, let me tell you now. Jerry Fitt never gave anybody. He never gave anybody anything. And he's coming in here tonight to try and scrounge drink and alcohol and whatever else. I'm not a fucking scrounger. You are a scrounger. No, you're the ones that bombed me out of my fucking house in Antrim Road, and you know who done it. So you're the scroungers. You come in to wreck something that I had, and I remember that day when I was up the top of the stairs at that 9 mil, and you threatened me, you tried to come up the stairs, and I told you where to fucking go, and you scampered. Well, that wasn't me. It might have been Alex, that wasn't me. Nothing to do with me.
Right now, gentlemen, we are going to move on here because we do have the Chief Constable of the RUC in here.
Oh, Black Master.
Right, come on now, Jerry, please settle. We do have the Chief Constable of the RUC, Ronnie Flanagan. Ronnie Flanagan, the RUC, is it containing the ceasefire or what?
Sorry about that, Ronnie. I didn't mean that.
That's quite okay, Dr. Pacey. But I have to say that the ceasefire is holding very, very nicely at the moment. We are very aware that some IRA cells are operating in and around West Belfast, and we are doing a tremendous job. The RUC, of course, have one of the most difficult jobs in the world, and they are the best force in the world without a doubt.
Right, well, let me tell you, Ronnie, or let me ask you, how many Catholics have you got in the RUC?
Well, at the moment, the RUC have a rigorous ongoing recruitment taking place at the moment, and in the last 4 years, we have 2 Catholics employed into the RUC.
And what are they doing? Or the sergeants? Or what the fuck are they?
Well, at the moment they're in the canteen peeling potatoes for the rest of the force for their dinner this afternoon. But we do hope to move them forward whenever they have become accomplished chefs and cooks. They will go on to other things, like buffing up the boots for the boys, and we will keep them in employment, and we are trying to recruit more people from the nationalist persuasion. And it is very difficult, as you can understand, a Catholic trying to become a member of the RUC, because they get hassle from where they live and from their parents and whatever else, and they have to move house and...
So what? Hold on a second, Mr. Flanagan. I want to make this abundantly clear that the RUC should not be recruiting as many Catholics as they would like. Let me say this here, they're only going to try and join the RUC to infiltrate the force.
Jerry Adams?
No, I don't want to infiltrate the force. And I just want Mr. Flanagan to explain to me why there's only 2 Catholics that have been employed to the RUC in the last 4 years. I mean, that, in my view, is severe discrimination.
Well, Mr. Adams, it's not as straight and cut and dry as you think it probably is for the RUC. It's a very difficult job which we have in trying to apply the things that are necessary for the Catholics to come into the force. Like I've just explained, it's very, very difficult. But we are currently working on areas in which we can recruit more Catholic people, and I hope they do come forward, because the RUC are a force that we don't worry about creed, colour, religion or whatever else. We want people from all denominations to come forward and apply for the force.
Well, are you trying to tell me now that if I sent in an application form, that I would probably...
No, if you sent an application form, it would be fucking burnt. No one would recruit you, Mr. Adams, into the RUC. You've got your own force to run, remember?
Well, now, I totally reject what Ian Pacey is trying to insinuate. And I totally refute what he has said. I don't run a force. I run a party. And my party is the Sinn Féin. And we are all working towards trying to get a united fucking Ireland. That's what you're working towards. Is that right?
Right, please, gentlemen, really at the end of the day we need to keep a very cool head.
Well, are you going to make an arrest? Are you? Are you going to make an arrest, are you?
Right, now, come on, Dr. Paisley. We were not moving any way forward here at all. Right, now, Mr. Paisley, you want to say something to John Hume?
Yes, I do. Let me tell this to Mr. Hume. What gets in my tits is all these so-called Irish Americans who come over here to pontificate. And I use that word deliberately.
No, Dr. Pizzy, Irish America has a valuable contribution to make in helping us to forget our past, construct new futures, and spill our sweat together, not our blood. That's what they're trying to do.
Why don't you stop spilling your slabbers? I've heard all that crap a million times before, when Sir Patrick, who was a Protestant, by the way, threw all the snakes out of Ireland. They all swam to Boston and became Irish Americans. And now they're all coming back, especially those fucking Kennedy bastards. They're all coming back in their drums. The Kennedys have done more hurt to this country than enough.
Well, I have to say the Kennedys have done a tremendous amount of work for this country.
It's no wonder they have any time to do anything between shagging their babysitters like the one who skied into a tree. Ask only who you can screw for your country. Speaking of tragic skiing accidents, what type of tree did Sonny Bono hit?
I don't know.
He hit a U-babe. Yes, I thought that was...
That's not very funny.
And what right does Bill Clinton have to interfere in our beloved province? Did you hear that Paula Jones said he has a bent prick? Well, if she wants to look at mine, she'll find that it's as straight as the flagpole outside the Martyrs' Memorial.
And she'll find out why you keep saying not an inch.
Well, at least unlike one of your priests, I'm not trying to lure boys with cheese triangles. As the advert says, kids will do anything for a Derry Lee cheese triangle. Anyway, as I was saying about these Irish Americans, we should do what the Fenians done to the Indians. We could have all the Roman Catholics living on the reservation in South Armagh, and if Chief Sitting Bull Jerry Adams causes any trouble, we'll scalp him and you could stuff quite a few pillows with his hair. I'll tell you that.
Right, I'm sure you could probably stuff a couple of mattresses with it too. But anyway, right, Mo Mullum, you're actually in here and you want to suggest something to the listeners and indeed anyone who is in here tonight.
Yes, I do want to say something. As you know, I am the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and I would actually prefer you call me Mo. Now, I want to start by getting everyone together, and I want you to give the next person beside you a big hug. I want everyone in here to hug each other, please.
I'm certainly not fucking hugging him.
Please, Dr. Paisley, please. I can feel your pain. Now, if only David Twimble and Jerry Adams could give each other a big hug, things would become a lot different. One of the questions that a lot of people always bring up at the talks is, Mo, where did you get that fucking wig? Well, actually, I got it from the same supplier as Elton John, as I've already said earlier on. Apparently they're made from the same breed of hamster. Some people have also asked me about my visit to the Maze prison. They say that what was it like going into a room full of thugs who claimed to be politically motivated. I said, you mean just like the House of Commons? I was very upset the other day when I heard that Ken McGuinness calling Jerry Adams a fucking murderer. I know that Ken, there was no need for that offensive language. Jerry's just a murderer, he's not a fucking murderer. Anyway, Bill Clinton has given me a new idea on how to get the talks process moving forward again. When all the parties look like falling out, I'll get under the table and give Twimble and Mr. Adams some oral relief. I suppose you could call it a Mo job. This will be the new approach, and I hope it works, and all I can say is suck it and see.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Mo. I hope I'm under that fucking table that particular day you decide to do that there. Ian Paisley, would you be into that?
Yes, that would be very nice. I would look forward to the day when she gets the laughing gear around it. Very nice, yes.
Jerry Adams?
Well, now, I would be very fussy on... now, Mo, the last time I seen a face like that, love, there was a fish hook in it. And I have to say, you're not the most attractive-looking woman. And
Well, I don't think that's a very nice thing to say, Mr. Adams, because at the end of the day, if I'm doing the business on the table and under the table, I don't see why you should worry about it.
Well, I tell you what, Mo, there's no problem with me, love. I would just have it out in 10 seconds flat, and you can do whatever the hell you want with it.
But, Jerry, I think I would be very restrained to come anywhere near you, and...
What do you mean, you old bastard? Am I not attractive enough?
Sure, look at you, if you know more else, the fucking house.
Right now, gentlemen, come on now, listen. Now, Dr. Pizzy, very interestingly, I want to ask you a couple of questions that normally people wouldn't ask you. I want to ask you, the people in Northern Ireland, what they really, really want to know is, who's your favourite Spice Girl?
Oh, well, that's a very good question, Mr. Cole. You may be surprised, but I have a lot in common with the Spice Girls. The media keep writing us off as has-beens, but after every European election, just like the Spice Girls, I still make it to number one. Now, let's see who's my favourite. Sporty Spice. She's the ugly one that never gets her kit off. She reminds me too much of the Women's Coalition. And then we have Baby Spice. A bit young for me, but if I was a Roman Catholic priest, I might be tempted to attack. And then we have Scary Spice. No. The only black I'm into is a Royal Black Institution. Haven't missed a sham fight at Scarborough for years. Mind you, it's not as big a sham as what is going on at Stormont Talks.
Right, well, what about your woman Posh Spice?
Oh, yes, she used to be my favourite, yes. Nice firm set of principles. And then I found out her real name was Victoria Adams. Well, I'm not about to get into negotiations with anyone called Adams. No, I'll tell you who my favourite is. It's Ginger Spice. I like her. Did you see her in her Union Jack dress? It reminded me of Orange Lil, except Ginger has a nice pair of tits, and her dress is about 3 foot shorter, so I'm into that. Eileen's a bit jealous, though. She said to me the other night, Ian, what are you doing beneath those sheets with that picture of Ginger Spice? Be careful or you'll lose your deposit, she's saying. No, Eileen, I say. I'm just about to top the poll again. But, yes, we had a good laugh, and that's what it's about. So, Messrs. Adams, Human, I heard. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. I wanna stop you interfering with Ulster's internal constitutional affairs. So butt out, you Republican button rastards.
Right, well, thank you very much, Dr. Paisley. Jerry Adams, who would be your favourite Spice Girl?
well, I like the four of them. And I'm into a bit of black, I'll have to say. But I do like Victoria Adams, and not just because her second name's Adams, because I think she's got some sort of personality. A nice set of legs. Fuck's sake, I've seen better legs hanging out of a fucking crow's nest. I would rather have Mulum than any of the Space Girls. The Space Girls are a sure of turds. That's all I've got to say in that there matter.
Well, that's not very nice saying that, Jerry Fit. I'm sure they're all waddling in front of you. You wouldn't turn them down anyway. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming in here and giving us your answers to irrelevant questions towards the political scene. We are going somewhat up. But everyone's very interested to see who our politicians like and who they don't like. Now, I want to ask Willie McRae, do you like any of the Spice Girls?
Well, I have to say it here, and I have to make it very clear that those Spice Girls, they are a destruction amongst the humanity of the people in this province. They are provocative. They are insulting, except for the one that wears that Union Jack dress. But I have to say that the people of Ulster, what they have to worry about is not the Spice Girls. It's Sinn Féin. It's the other internal interferers like Bertie Ahern and those Republicans down in the south of Ireland. They're trying to take our loyal country from under us, but they will never succeed. Because I have said to my constituents on a number of occasions, don't be trusted by the Republican elements. Don't be trusted by Mo Mullum. Don't be trusted by Tony Blair. They're all trying to sail us down the river. And the river is the place and the course that we will not take, because at the end of the day, I am the representative of the people of Mid-Ulster, whether Martin McGuinness has got that title or not. And the people in Mid-Ulster will listen to Willie. And what Willie says, Willie does. And Willie will fulfil his duties.
And I'm sure Willie has fulfilled his duties on a number of occasions, especially when you're looking at a photograph of the Spice Girls.
It's not funny, Mr. Pace, it's fucking serious. And I also want to say to Mr. Adams that he is not welcome. He is not welcome in Mid-Ulster, nor is Martin Art Garfunkel McGuinness. He's not welcome either, nor is the Taoiseach Dick Spring and all the rest of them. They're not welcome in our province, because at the end of the day, Northern Ireland is Ulster. Northern Ireland is British, and Northern Ireland will always remain.
But, hold on a minute. You're talking the biggest lot of claptrap ever I've heard. Now, you've went on there rummaging on about the biggest lot of shite. What about Sinn Féin? What about our people? What about the Catholic people that are being suppressed by the army? Being suppressed by the RUC?
Hold on, Mr. Adams. I don't think the RUC is an impartial force. We don't care what people are, whether they're Catholic, Protestant, Chinese, Negro, or whatever.
Well, let me tell you something, Ronnie. You're never done harassing members of my constituents. I mean, I can't even go out in the backyard to have a shite and I'm getting strip searched before they make it a call. And I am not going to tolerate that. The sooner we have a change in the RUC, the better.
Oh, well, what would you like it called, Mr. Adams? A GAA? Grab an Armalite? Krill yourself off. Let me tell you this here. The RUC are here. They're doing a good job for the people of Northern Ireland. That's all I say.
Right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. By the way, I want to thank absolutely everyone who came in here today to make this programme possible. We are running out of time just for this moment in time, but thank you all again for joining us. Bye. This actually is the first in a brand new series of Answering the Impossible. It's asking politicians questions they don't normally be asked. And I, of course, as you know, I'm not afraid to ask anyone anything. But the first correspondent that we do have in here, first famous politician, as I would class him, is Mr. Jerry Adams, the MP for West Belfast. Mr. Adams, thank you for coming along. But anyway, I'm going to ask you some simplistic questions again. Mr. Adams, is the Pope a Catholic?
Well, we in Sinn Féin have substantive evidence that yes, indeed, the Pope is an adherent of the Holy Roman and Apostolic Church.
Right, well, Mr. Adams, do bears shit in the woods?
While not wishing to preempt the results of any forensic examination I would conclude that on this serious allegation, birds do indeed have a case to answer.
Right, Mr. Adams, does Dolly Parton sleep on her back?
Well, all the indications point to the affirmative in that regard.
And who was it who put the bebop in Shwop-de-Wop?
Well, I'm not fully appraised as to who was responsible for that. But I can tell you who put the Ra in the Ramalama Ding Dong.
Right, okay. Who killed Cock Sparrow?
Well, at this moment in time, I'm reluctant to engage in the politics of the last atrocity. But I can tell you now that the Republican movement was not involved, and I believe that the murder was part of a loyalist no claim, no blame strategy.
And how are things in Glockamara?
Well, as you know, Sinn Féin has just opened up an advice centre in Glockamara, and things are looking up already.
In relation to President Clinton's recent problems, Mr. Adams, how does your party stand on oral sex?
Well, Sinn Féin's approach to oral sex is one of suck it and see.
Right, okay, thank you very much. Another question I want to ask you, are Martin McGuinness and Art Garfunkel related?
Well, I can certainly see a similarity, and Martin does sing a very good version of Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Does he know the sound of Semtex?
If you're not careful, you might know it soon, son. There's no need for that.
Right, well tell me, Mr. Adams, what's the link exactly? What is the link between Sinn Féin and the IRA?
Well, look, let me tell you something. I'm getting really pissed off now. How many times do I have to say it? Sinn Féin and the IRA are as different as black and white.
Only the IRA are very fond of the black, aren't they, Mr. Adams?
Now, watch what they're saying. I'm going to slap your cooping.
Well, to be honest with you, Mr. Adams, this is a show which is called Answering the Impossible. And I don't think there's anyone any better than yourself to try and answer the impossible. So why can you not answer a few light-hearted...
Well, let me tell you now. You have brought me in here under false pretenses. I was led to believe that I was coming in and doing a light-hearted chat with you. And now we see you're peppering questions of no significance to your programme. And I will not accept that because, as you know, Sinn Féin are a party and they have a mandate to represent the people up in West Belfast and indeed the greater part of Northern Ireland, or Ireland, as I would like to say. And we have to have an agreed settlement for this province for all the people on our island. And I want you to try and address the issue here. Are you bringing me on for a light-hearted chat, or are you trying to put me in a corner where I can't get out? And I will not have anyone, not even yourself, Mr. Cole, trying to put me in a situation where I have to try and run. And I won't run away from any situation. And we all know what we need of the British government and to move the process forward and to get an agreed Ireland. And one which we can all live in peace and harmony. And I want to emphasise this very, very clearly, that the British government, when are they going to be on ceasefire? They are always on about the IRA ceasefire, the loyalist ceasefire. When is the British government going to call their ceasefire? They're still running around with guns up in my constituents in West Belfast. They're still harassing the people up in West Belfast. And I want to know when they're going to call their ceasefire. And I take it very, very strongly that if they don't call a ceasefire... Then
right, well, okay, Mr. Adams, thank you very much for putting us to fucking sleep there, but I really do want to thank you very much for coming along and making this programme very possible tonight. And I have to say, you didn't answer the impossible, but then you are a politician. Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you.